So we'll be cutting the cakes, and everyone is invited to stay. We also have barbecue. So, and believe me, we got a lot of barbecue. We were preparing for about 300 people, and so we've got a lot of barbecue. So everybody better plan on about 3 or 4 sandwiches apiece at least. We want to start out by just making a few. I want to make a few little comments here and tell you some stories about Frank O. Ratcliffe, my father, and introduce some of the members of the family and everything. And we'll let Mama say a little bit, and then we'll actually have a dedication for the plaques that we have on the rock that's right in front of us right here. We're going to unveil that. Well, this story really starts 100 years ago today. And that's the day that Frank Ratcliffe was born right here in Mecklenburg County. And Daddy is, a lot of you knew my father, and a lot of you, even if you didn't know him, you kind of have experienced some of the work that he did in his lifetime. And during the 66 years that he was alive, he really did a lot of things that affected a lot of people. He was really a true member of the community. He did a lot of things in Charlotte. And although we're dedicating the Paradise Valley Golf Course to him today, that's just one of the many things that he did to contribute to Charlotte as a community and to Mecklenburg County. So it's really a great honor for us to be able to do this. And I'd like to thank each and every one of you for coming out today. And if I really wanted to, those of you especially that knew of Daddy and knew of his history, we could probably tell stories about him from now until next week this same time. And I picked out a couple of my favorite stories because I thought they were really relevant not only to today, but to this property that we're all standing on right here. And again, Daddy was born 100 years ago today. And the way that he came about owning the property that was eventually the Paradise Valley Golf Course is a truly unique story in and of itself. Years ago, Daddy ran a nightclub downtown Charlotte, the Flamingo Club, and he was also involved in the real estate business. He had a real estate office that was down on Trine Street, right at about 30th Street. And a lot of people these days, when you ride by there, you just don't think about it, but back then, that was downtown, and this was really out in the country. The road that's behind me now, North Trine Street, was actually just a 2-lane road that went from Charlotte to Concord. This was a rural area. There were no stores. There was no retail. There was nothing out here except farms. And this one particular property that we're standing on right now was just a deep ravine that was covered with briars and brambles and was really just a kind of considered a scrub piece of property. And it had been for sale for quite some time. They hadn't had any success in selling it. And one day they decided they were going to have an auction and just auction the property off. And Daddy was in his real estate office downtown, and one of his friends named Roy Davis just happened to stop in that morning and said, "Frank, you know they're auctioning off that property. Let's just ride out there and see what's going on." Well, Daddy didn't think anything about it. He got in the car, and everybody knew Roy Davis as Lawyer Davis. And Lawyer Davis was kind of in on a deal that Daddy didn't know anything about. And Daddy said whenever they first came over the crest of the hill, right up here at the top of the hill that is now where J.W. Clay Boulevard is, Daddy said it was kind of odd because he noticed that there were some people gathered around, but they were kind of putting everything up, and when they saw the car come over the hill, they started getting everything back out. They actually had a kind of a stage set up. There were a lot of people milling around. They had the band set up, and by the time they got out of the car, the band was playing, all activity was going on, and they started up the auction. And the auctioneer was calling for the opening bids and trying to get someone to open up with a bid. Nobody was opening up for a bid on this property, and Lawyer Davis turned to Daddy and said, "Frank," he said, "well, just to get them started, why don't you just go ahead and just open up a bid for them?" And so Daddy did. He figured, well, heck, I'll just get the bidding started and somebody will end up buying the thing. So he raised up his hand, and the auctioneer pointed right at Daddy and said, "Sold!" Yes, $100 an acre back then. And they actually, Lawyer Davis was in on the whole thing. They had orchestrated it and felt like they had really done something great because they had stuck Daddy with this piece of property that was out in the middle of nowhere. So years later, Daddy took that, and by a lot of hard work on his part, a lot of hard work with Velma's part, he actually sat down on the kitchen table in the house that we used to live in that really sat just on the other side of this building that we're looking at right over here. That was the original house that Daddy built on this property. And on that property, on that kitchen table, he took quarters, and using quarters for the greens, he laid out the original Paradise Valley Golf Course on this property. And using the help of a lot of hard work and sweat and some of the family then, Jack Horton, who was running the Eastwood Golf Course, helped Daddy with that. They built the original Paradise Valley Golf Course. Now, again, some of you may know Paradise Valley, and some of you may not, but the original Paradise Valley Golf Course really holds a unique place in Charlotte's history in the fact that it was really something that a lot of people learned to play the game of golf. And so the creation that Daddy built back then has really created a lot of golfers. And I can't tell you how many people I have that come up to me throughout the years, even now, and say, the first round of golf that I ever played on was that par 3 golf course out at Paradise Valley. And so now years later, of course, we've gone through a lot of changes in this area. The road back behind them is no longer a little 2-lane road. There's certainly development all around, and the original Paradise Valley golf course now has apartments sitting on it, part of the shopping center up here at the top of the hill. This property that was the old driving range, and even the old Herlocker property is no longer here. But there is still the original part of the golf course that's a golf course, and that's the 18-hole Paradise Valley par 3 that we have today. So I wanted to give Mama a chance here. And again, now, for those of you who knew Daddy, you also know Mama. And even the ones that didn't know Daddy know Mama. She is affectionately known as Mama not only by those of us in the family, but by everybody that's in the Ratcliffe Golf Services family. And everybody around just refers to her as Mama. As a matter of fact, a lot of people don't even know that her first name is really Velma. But it is Velma, even though they all refer to her as Mama. So I wanted to give Mama a chance to say a few words before I close with another story, and we have the actual dedication right here.
Thank you, babe. And I want to thank all of you for coming here today. It's a wonderful blessing to us to be able to do this. I just don't know how many people can live to celebrate the 100th birthday of a beloved man like my husband. And I'll tell you a little tale Dell told how I came here, but I came here in 1950, 22 years old, as a singer featured in a nightclub called the Flamingo Supper Club. It was down at 6th and Tryon, where Discovery Place is now. I met the most handsome man I had ever seen, and for some unknown reason, God made him like me as much as I liked him. And 5 weeks later, we were married. We went to York, South Carolina, and came back that night, and he told me on the way back, he said, I thought I could give him, it was J. Gaddy's nun, who married more people at that time than any notary public in the whole state. And he said, I thought I could give him $50 tonight, and we'd go ahead with it, but then I thought, no, I'll give you one more day to make your decision. And I said I made it when I first got here. And we went back the next day, and I want to tell you that my youngest daughter, I don't know where Belle is. Oh, here he is. She and I went down last year on July 10th, which was the day that Frank and I were married. That would have been our 60th wedding anniversary. We drove through York and asked about 3 or 4 different places where J. Gaddy's nun's house was. We finally found the house, got the lady who was living in the house, and let us go in and take pictures of where we were married 60 years ago. Nobody had I guess, much of a shorter courtship than I did, but nobody had a better or longer lasting love affair than my husband and I. He was a great person, and we still get a lot of people tell us so many wonderful stories about him. We're very proud of him. We're very proud, as I told my people in church today, we're very proud that God gave him to us and us to him. Amen. It's just been wonderful. And I'd like to take a minute, Dale probably would do this, but let me do it. I'd like to introduce all my children here today. Of course, you know Dale, my son, and he did design and build this course that you're looking at today. My youngest daughter over here, Zelda, she works in the office with Dell, and I work with them. This is my oldest daughter down here, Franny's, and this is my stepdaughter here in the blue. Yes. And then I have 2 of the grandsons, my grandsons here. Where are they? Either one of them? There's Troy taking pictures. Troy's right there. He is hiding behind this is Troy. This is Franny's son. And this is Dell's oldest son. This is Jeremy.
A little dirty, sorry.
And then I have a step granddaughter here. This is Tammy over here. This is Mickey's daughter. And this is a great grandson, step-great-grandson, Jordan. This is another daughter of her son. So we do continue the line on down. I have Jerry and his wife Annette, who were Frank's nephew, and his wife Annette over there. This is Sissy's husband, Mickey. We call Mickey Sissy, I'm sorry, but this is Sissy's husband standing next to her. So, and up there with the other camera is Velda's husband, Scott. So we do have a family affair here. We always have had, and we're just blessed beyond words. And we do thank the good Lord every day for all the blessings that we have. And I thank all of you for coming here. I even have some of my church people here, all of them down here. I have some of our banking people. There's some, and there's Andrea back there, and MK, one of our very special friends. She's a wonderful massage therapist, but she's becoming a great golfer in her later years here. But we really do thank you all for coming, and it is a blessed time for us, and we thank the Lord for what He's given us. We've tried to spread the joy around, and we hope we continue in the Lord's name. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Mama. This is a family operation, and like a lot of stuff that we do, we always are flying by the seat of our pants. The one reason that Jeremy's kind of hiding up there and he's got on his work clothes is we came in today, the downstairs, and a lot of you have maybe not even been in the miniature golf here, but we have 18 holes of miniature golf that's themed along a mine theme. We've got 9 holes that's above ground here. We've got 9 holes down below. And we came in this morning. Last night they decided to fill up the waterfall and forgot to turn the water off, so we had about 2 feet of water in the basement. So Jeremy spent most of the morning, again, family operation. Jeremy was down there getting it all cleaned up like he normally does. So good news is there's the water's just about gone, and it's nice and clean downstairs too. So it always seems to happen that way, you know. When we'd be remiss. There's always, when we have something like this, you know, we really consider that everyone that we have just part of our family. And those of you who knew my father knew that he never met a stranger. Everyone that he met, he was truly just a natural person. It didn't matter what walk of life they were from, but he really and truly made a friend for life. And so we want to thank each and every one of you for coming out today and being with us here. And I want to share another story that's really kind of unique to me, but again, to me it really just embodies the whole ability that my father had to see things and to really have that vision of what the future was going to be, even at a point when most other people around him did not have the ability to do that. This story took place right on this very property and not very far from where we stand right now. As a matter of fact, if you go back up through here, this was the original Paradise Valley Golf Course. We had a 9-hole regulation course and a 9-hole par 3. Our original household, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, was just on the other side of this road, roughly starting right where that building sits and running back up that way. There was a creek in front of that house, and it went up kind of parallel to the first hole on the old Paradise Valley Golf Course. And this was a par 4 hole that came right down the highway here and started roughly up just this side of where the shopping center is, came down parallel to the highway along the side where the apartments are now. And I remember one time as a very young boy, I probably couldn't have been much more than 6 or 7 years old. It was a Sunday afternoon. It was a really bright day. The sun was shining. Birds were chirping. Squirrels were running along the ground. And I remember walking out with Daddy out from the house and going up in past that area, up through this little draw. There was this little creek that went up, and there was a spring up in those woods up in there. And for some reason, Daddy that morning said, Dale, let's just walk out through here. So we walked up through there, and I remember the sun shining. I remember seeing golfers playing out on the golf course. And as we walked up through there, right along that little creek, Daddy stopped. And he just kind of looked around. And he held up his hand and he waved it. And he said, son, he said, one day, he said, all of this will be shopping centers and apartments and developed. And I remember thinking to myself, my daddy's crazy. You know, this is a golf course. Back then, the closest stoplight was down at the Trine Mall. There was nothing out here to even suggest that this was ever going to be anything. And I thought, well, you know, he's just old and he just doesn't really see, you know, this is always going to be a golf course. And I forgot about that incident. And this is, again, a true story. Years later, after Daddy passed away, and for those of you who aren't familiar, he passed away in 1977, so he's been gone for a while. we ran the golf course. Mama took the golf course back over and ran it, and it was a family operation. And I kind of worked on the golf course for quite some time. And later, through a whole series of events, we sold the property and moved on to do other things. And actually, I've still stayed involved in the golf business and still operated that golf course. But it later came to be that we had sold a portion of the property for it to be developed as these apartments that you see right over here. This was a joint venture with an apartment development company here in Charlotte called Summit Properties. And in the course of building these apartments, I got a call from the foreman of the project. He asked me to come and meet them on the property. He said, we have some questions we think maybe you can help me with. And so I didn't think anything about it, and I said, sure, I can help you with it. And I came out here on the site, and this was all just totally unfamiliar to me. The area that had been the Paradise Valley Golf Course was under construction. They were moving dirt. They had big pans going all over the place. Bulldozers were bulldozing. Trees were being cut. It was just a construction site. And they said, we want to walk up through here. There's a spring up in here, and we can't really find the head of where the spring is. And we thought, as familiar as you are with the property, you might could help us find the head of the spring. So I said, well, sure, I'll try to walk up through there with you and try to find that. So I did. I got up with them, and we walked up through the little draw there, and there were still some trees out there. And in walking with the foreman, I bent down, I saw something that kind of caught my eye, and I bent down to pick it up. And as I squatted down to pick it up, I looked at him, and he turned, and he held his hand just like this right here. And it was one of those moments in your life where you have an epiphany. Because here I was back down, a little boy again, looking up and seeing my father. Because that was the exact motion that Daddy had made. And it hit me. Here I am, all these years later, and these guys are building apartments and they're building shopping centers. And in that very spot, that exact motion that Daddy had did brought that moment back to me. I'd forgotten about it. I had completely forgotten about it. But that reminded me of it. And so that's just one instance of probably 1,000 I could tell you of Daddy's ability to see things in the future that most people couldn't. So he truly was a visionary. And it would be, to me, a great travesty if we lost the recognition of somebody like that. And so thanks to my mother, and thanks to the love that she still has for a man that she lost many years ago, but still in her heart every day holds as dear as someone could possibly hold dear, we're going to dedicate the Paradise Valley Golf Course to my father today, Franco Ratcliffe. But before we do that, before we unveil this off of this rock right here, there's something else that I wanted to say to you. And that's that there's a kind of a cliched saying, but it holds very true. And that is, behind every great man, there's a woman. Behind any great effort by any great man, there is truly a unique woman who stood there and walked every step of the way. And in this instance, Mama not only walked every step of the way, but Daddy. She not only was with him there when he was drawing those greens out with the quarters, after he was gone, she sustained his vision. Not only did she sustain that original vision, she is the one who made sure that we had something here that we could all continue to remember Daddy from. This building, this golf course, this property, this business is all something that's to his tribute. And so while we do dedicate this property to him today, there's just no way that we could do that dedication without also including our mother Velma in that. And so this dedication today goes to Frank Ratcliffe, but also to our mother Velma Ratcliffe, and to you, Mama. And we have 2 plaques that are on this rock right here. And I'd like to ask if we could now, if I could get somebody to come down here, we'd like to pull this off. Mom, I'd like for you to come down in the front so we can see this. We take this off. Let's wait till she gets down here, Jerry. We didn't have this walkway planned out real good, so bear with us. Come right on in here, Mom. You want your walker, man? We're good. Oh. And so, I want to read this to you because this is from our hearts, and this is for Daddy. In commemoration of his 100th birthday and the 50th year of our operation, we dedicate the Paradise Valley Par 3 course to Frank Odell Ratcliffe. Frank designed, built, and opened the original Paradise Valley Golf Course in 1961. Over the year, thousands of people learned to play golf on his creation. The current Paradise Valley Par 3 was designed and built by his family on a portion of the original golf course property. It is their hope that this legacy from a truly wonderful man will continue to inspire people for generations to come. Thanks be to God for our beloved Frank Odell Ratcliffe. And then under Mama's side of the picture we have Frank's dream of Paradise Valley exists today because of his devoted wife, Velma. After his death in 1977, Mama, as she is known to all, personally managed Paradise Valley Golf Course from 1980 until 1984. In the mid-1990s, she, along with her children, built the current Paradise Valley Par 3 in his memory. His legacy would not have been possible without her love, support, and inspiration through the years. Frank and Velma's storybook tale of love, devotion, and commitment is rare indeed, and the dedication of Paradise Valley to Frank Ratcliffe would not be complete without dedicating it to Velma Ratcliffe as well. And Mama, this is from not only us as your family, but from the whole Ratcliffe Golf Services family. Mama,